Welcome to a Volition tutorial slash how to play basic guide here. So in Volition, you're going to have a deck of 50 cards. My deck is pretty short, I'm going to pull some out. And then you're going to have a stack of 3 cores. Your cores are going to be the main way that tells you what actions you take, what you can do on your turn, and how it works. The cores are also the win condition, essentially. So as your cores take damage and they're destroyed, so you start the game by choosing one. When it's destroyed, you'll choose one of your other 2. And once all 3 of your cores are destroyed, you lost the game. So for this core, when it comes into play, you're going to search our deck for a standard statue, which I've already pulled out, which would be these down here I'll talk about. And then we're going to gain 2 shields. And so when you're gaining shields, you're just going to take the top 2 cards, or however many shields you can gain, from your deck. And these are just your shields. So as you're attacked, if you do not block and you would take damage, then in this instance, for every mortal that hits you that you did not block, you would absorb, which would be to draw one of these shields. If you have no shields and your core would take damage, then that core would be destroyed, and you'd have to choose another core at the start of your next turn. So that's the key kind of aspect of this game, is that we're going to have our shields and we have our core, and our core kind of tells us what we can do. So the way that this game works is it works off of an action system, or a decree system is what it's called. So while you have resources, like these over here, they just they provide clout more. They're statues, and they provide clout, which enables you to play these cards. So underneath the name of this has 1 beta and 1 omega clout. That means in order to play this card, you must have at least 1 beta, and then the omega can be fulfilled by anything. So you just need 1 beta and then 1 of any other resource, or any other statue in play. So in order to, but again, everything, there are no phases, there are no steps in this. It's basically an open-ended turn, but all your actions for the most part are going to take decrees. And so as you see on this core, you can spend 1 decree. It's a little easier to send. That's the symbol here in the middle. So this is a decree symbol. So up here on the leader 18 score, so I can use one of my decrees to draw a card, because you do not draw a card naturally every turn. You must use decrees to draw a card. Use a decree to deploy a card. That would be including deploying any of the different card types, including your statues, to get resources out. Or you can do it to begin combat. This core also has the next thing over here. This is a deplete symbol. I can deplete the core to begin a combat. So that way I don't have to spend one of my decrees to begin combat. I can just deplete this core to begin a combat. This also has another action where I can deplete this to draw a card and then put a card in my hand to scribe. So instead of beginning combat, I can just draw a card for it. And every time I do that, I will spend 1 of my decrees. So, kind of reduce this down to 2, and then reduce another 1 and 0, and so on. This is just a decree counter. It comes with the game. You could use chits or tokens or whatever you would like to kind of keep track of those to make it easier. So that is how a turn will kind of play out. That's how you will play these cards, and that we will now talk about. So the 5 different main card types are going to be statues. I already kind of hinted at this, that these just provide the different clouts. Like this will provide beta, this is theta, this is gamma. You can also play any card you want face down, which will provide an alpha clout. No cards currently use alpha in order to play them, but they will also count as omegas as well. So if you don't have another statue, but you really just need a few extra omegas, you can just play anything face down. The first card type we'll talk about is mortal. These are your basic attackers and defenders that you're going to have in pretty much every game. In the upper right there, it's a 1/1, which is a power and a life. So the power is how much damage it will deal. A life is how much damage it will take it to destroy this mortal. Damage will reset or heal after every turn, so you have to do that much damage in a single turn to destroy it. Over here, next up, we have an item. This item has the subtype of gear, which means that it will attach to a mortal. There are some items without gear that they'll just sit on the battle zone and just have an effect. So in gear in this game, whenever you play the gear, you will get to choose to attach it for free when you play it. It also has the effect where you can pay decrees or actions to move if you want later. But one key thing is that we play the spiky roller skates and we attach it to Superfast Mortal. When the mortal is destroyed, the gear is not also destroyed. The mortal will go to the trash pile. The gear will stay on the battle zone. So that way, next time you play another mortal, you could attach the spiky roller skates to it. That's a very key difference. So the gear does not leave the battle zone just because the mortal did. Next up, we have an event. These are your one-shot cards. You'll basically play the event, do whatever it says, and then it goes to the trash pile. This one has another ability on it called Utilize, and that is that you can play this as a face-down statue, which I mentioned earlier, so it counts as alpha. So maybe you don't need to destroy an item now, but you don't necessarily want to hold the card in your hand for whatever reason. You can always just put this as a statue, and then later on, if you need to destroy a thing, you can choose to flip this up from being a statue and then get to use its effect, and then it goes away, which can be handy. And then the last card is a trap. So traps you will deploy in your turn as face-down traps. You will never actually activate a trap on your turn. You will only activate a trap during your opponent's turn at key times. So one of those times is anytime your opponent deploys a card, you can respond to it by activating a trap. During a combat step, there is an opportunity or a step for you to activate a trap card during combat, or at the end of your opponent's turn, before the turn actually ends, you can activate trap cards as well. So again, traps you will play, you have to spend a decree to deploy them face down as a trap, and then during your opponent's turn, you flip as many as you want during these key steps. You don't have to spend decrees to actually activate them, just deploy them. And that is the card type. So that's pretty much the game, and that's the very basis of it. So we're going to start the game. We would search when the core enters play, we would search our deck for one of our standard statues. We're going to put on the battle zone. We're going to gain these 2 shields, and then we would draw 5 cards for the start of the game. And then after that, it's an open-ended turn. I can choose to here. Let me pick up some cards. Okay, so we'll just say I search for this beta here. So maybe the first decree I'll do is I'll use it to deploy a card. So we're going to choose it to deploy one of our resources. That way we have 2 resources out. Now that we have 2 resources in play, I'm going to activate this again. So I'm going to use another decree to choose to deploy another card. In this turn, we're going to go employ our super fast mortal here. So when I'm deploying this, again, my opponent would get a trap check before it actually comes into play. So, and again, we're checking, I have to have 1 beta and 1 omega. As we can see, I have the 1 beta already, and then 1 omega could be fulfilled by anything else. So I have this one right here, which will be fine. And this instance, this card has fast and critical, which means that when it deals damage, instead of them getting to absorb the shield, which would be drawing it, actually destroys it, which is handy. So then for my 3rd decree, I'm going to go ahead and just choose to draw a card. So I'm going to just take this down to 0, and we will draw 1 card here. Okay. And then for my last thing, I'm going to go ahead and deplete this, and I'm going to begin a combat. So to begin combat, I'm just going to choose my super fast mortal, since it's the only mortal I have right now, and it has fast, which means they can attack the same turn it came into play. Normally, your mortals cannot attack the same turn they come into play. So I would just deplete it. I would attack. My opponent would get a opportunity to activate any trap cards they may have, and they get to choose to block. If they do not block, then their core would take damage, and they'd actually have to destroy a shield due to this rules text. But normally, they would just get to absorb a shield, which is they would just draw the shield that they have, draw one of their shields, and then and the game kind of continues. Once I'm done with all my actions and I don't want to do anything else, I pass, and then my opponent takes their turn, and when it comes back to me, all my cards will restore. I'll re-get my 3 decrees, and the game resumes. That is the basic guide of how to play Volition. I hope this made sense. Enjoy the game.